My name is Emily, and I am a ghoul. About a year ago, the Brujah vampire leader, Brahms, fed me his blood, and bound me to him, body and soul. Soon after, he disappeared, without a trace, and he left me here, alone. But he is still my master, and I will stop at nothing to find him again, even if I have to travel through the very depths of hell. Emily approached the old warehouse on the outskirts of Amsterdam with caution. She knew her very presence here was dangerous, but she couldn't stop a smile from crossing her face. It had been several months since she had any kind of lead surrounding her master's whereabouts, but earlier that day she hit pay dirt. One of her friends from the red light district heard a Brujah Ghoul whisper the name Brahms to his associate right before their playdate, along with the name of an old club he used to own. She also overheard that he had business at this warehouse tonight. Emily's plan was simple: find the guy, follow him home, and then have a nice, not-so-friendly chat with him. She held her switchblade tightly and took a deep breath in. What if she had to fight her way through? This part was recon only, but Emily had held her own in street fights before, and her melee skills were more than adequate. She was a Brujah Ghoul after all, and she would do whatever was needed to be done. The docking bay of the warehouse was open, and Emily slipped in, sight unseen. There were lights on at the far end of the building, and she carefully made her way over, hiding in between and behind the many crates that filled the space. Two men, likely ghouls, could be seen arguing by a small office, and it looked like they might soon come to blows. Emily tried to get as close as she could to hear them, but they were still too far and talked in hushed tones. Then a third man, dressed smartly in a suit and with slicked-back hair, approached them, and the two went immediately silent. In fact, they looked terrified of this newcomer, and with good reason. In one swift movement he lunged forward and punched one of the men in the temple. Emily could hear the cracking of bones and cartilage as his fist rammed straight through into the guy's cranium. His body went limp, but he was still held upright by the businessman's fist, which appeared to be stuck in his skull. Emily let out an involuntary gasp at the sight, then quickly covered her mouth. The third man looked in her direction and bared his fangs. Great. Just fucking great. Emily whispered to herself as she ran for the exit as fast as she could. The vampire was busy dislodging his fist, and the other man gave chase. He soon caught up with her and tackled her to the ground. Emily grappled with the guy and struggled to wrench her arm free from his hold so she could use the knife. He grunted and groaned as he exerted more brute strength to keep her pinned down. Suddenly, she felt the weight of her attacker lifted off of her, then heard him flying through the air and crash into a stack of nearby wooden crates. Emily looked around to see what might have thrown him, but could only see the smartly dressed vampire a short distance away, with a bloody fist that dripped with gore. He, too, seemed shocked by the sudden display, and his eyes darted around anxiously. A few seconds later, the vampire who, only a short while ago, had been a fearsome threat, was now being lifted off the ground by a shadowy tendril. He grasped at his throat frantically, as the tendril had coiled around it several times and was crushing his windpipe as it raised him higher. Emily could only watch in awe as other tendrils appeared and took hold of his arms and legs, with the smaller one ripping open the craven vampire's pants and reached in to grab his junk.
I'm having trouble finding something to grab hold of down there. Oh, wait. There it is. Jesus Christ, man, you call this a dick?
Emily looked over to where the voice was coming from and saw a man with an army jacket seemingly materialize from the surrounding shadows. This must be what obtenebration looks like. I've never seen shadows move like that before. Holy shit, Emily thought, and sat up, open-mouthed. The suited vampire kept opening and closing his mouth as if to speak, but no air got through to make even the smallest sound. Emily could see the man in the army jacket smile and shake his head at these pathetic attempts.
I'm not interested in what you have to say.
Then, as if on cue, every tendril quickly tightened, and each appendage, including a very small cock, broke away from the vampire's torso in a bloody display. His head was the last to go, which popped up several feet into the air before eventually falling to the concrete with a wet thud. The shadow vampire then walked over to Emily, but he was no longer smiling. Emily struggled to stand up before he reached her, so she could meet him with a defiant look.
Hey kid, were you trying to get yourself killed?
The young ghoul was taken aback by the unexpected greeting. Who the hell are you anyways?
You're welcome, by the way. Fucking kids these days.
The mysterious vampire grumbled as he walked over to the man who was lying on the ground semi-unconscious and picked him up by his jacket collar. He bared his fangs for the first time and scowled fiercely.
You fucking Brujah thug. I don't like you guys to begin with, but I especially don't like guys who beat up on kids.
I'm not a kid, I'm 18. The man was slowly coming to his senses and soon realized the trouble he was in. He started to beg for his life, but the vampire ignored him and started punching him relentlessly. No, don't kill him. He knows what happens to my master. Rejecting her pleas, the vampire ripped open the man's jacket to expose his neck, but as soon as he did, he let go and stumbled backwards, covering his face with both hands.
Oh, I thought the Dutch were mostly atheists. Who wears a fucking cross these days?
The girl was confused, but relieved to know her one and only lead was still alive, at least for now.
Fine. Look, kid. Tie this guy up, then we'll go somewhere safe and figure this shit out, okay?
The vampire rubbed his eyes while Emily went to look for something to restrain their prisoner. She soon came back with some duct tape and proceeded to bind him tightly. Afterwards, she looked over at her new ally inquisitively. Are you at least gonna tell me your name?
The name's Cooper, and you're Emily.
How do you...
Kate Sanders sent me to watch out for you. And you're a fucking handful, you know that?
Emily took a moment to consider this, then looked at him resolutely. Yeah, I guess I am.